Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, so let's get started. We're a little behind. My apologies. So this presentation is called Building a Brand That Sticks, Creating Raving Fans, Designing Irresistible Products, and Nailing Your Authentic Voice. I have my notes here because I am a storyteller. I like to talk, and this is to kind of keep me on track, make sure that we end on time. This presentation will be about 50 minutes. I'll try my very best to get it down because there will be some Q&A at the end. This is what you're going to learn in this presentation. You're going to learn how storytelling transforms my business. You're going to learn how to finally make your competition irrelevant. You're going to learn my secret formula for rapid social media growth. The #1 reason most businesses fail in their first few years. You're going to learn how we positioned our products and virtually halted competition. You're going to learn why knowing more, not less, about your customers, or knowing more about our customers quadrupled our revenue. And you're going to learn why thinking about what products you're going to build first will set you up for failure. And then how we grew our social media fan base from nothing to over 700,000 followers in 4 years. But before I move on, I want to thank you all for being here. 80% of success is just showing up. So I'm going to do a little bit of an exercise because I think this is after lunch, right? So y'all are kind of like, eh. Okay, so I want you to turn to your neighbor, both to the right and to the left, and I want you to do a double high five and say, congratulations for showing up. All right, awesome. Amazing. Okay, so since we're going to be spending a little bit of time together, is it okay if I tell you a little bit more about me? All right, so not many people know this, but I'm still in my 20s. I turned 30 in who said that? I like you. There you go. I turned 30 in 2 weeks, so I am a young one. So in my 20s, I became the youngest precinct judge in the state of North Carolina. I cloned a gene when I was 19 years old that had similarities to a genetic disorder. I started an organization to open up an international civil rights museum in my college town. I helped lead an anti-tobacco organization, so I traveled all around the country talking to young people about the ills of big tobacco and all of that. And at 22, I was named Glamour Magazine's 25 Young Women Changing the World. So I was very busy in college, as you can imagine. A few months after I graduated college, I sold everything that I owned and I moved to India. So this is me. I lived on a train for some time, and these are my friends that I met while I was on that train. And so I lived and worked there for a year right after I graduated college. As my lovely presenters mentioned earlier, I sold my company last year. This was a trip that I took right before we inked the deal. And so I currently spend my days managing the transition between Travel Noire in its newest merged form with our acquiring company. So these days I get to travel the world and share what I'm passionate about. I've had my hustle moments, and now I'm able to kind of relax. I can live a balanced life now, finally. I can eat healthier. I can eat on time. I can, I don't have to stay up all hours of the night. I can really live a life that I set out to build, when I started this company. But it wasn't always this way, right? So in 2012, I moved to San Francisco, the most expensive city, or one of the most expensive cities in the world. And I had a couple $100s in my bank account. I had a $3 a day budget. It was a struggle. It was choose between paying my muni fare or eating. So it was one of those. And I had 4 jobs. So I was working 4 jobs, I was hustling, I was always hungry, I was always tired, and I wasn't taking care of myself. It was no way to live. And so, I never rested. I was always working because somehow especially if you're in the Bay Area, they teach you that you have to like, it's like this Gary V mentality, like work, 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 work until you die, like just never stop. And that's not healthy. It's not healthy for anybody. And it wasn't until I joined an advanced mastermind, this gentleman here is Jeff Walker, that I learned how to allow my business to work for me instead of me working on my business. And so that was kind of like a shift. I started taking these flex weeks. So there were periods of time where I would like go, and because I had a travel company, I could just like go and travel and find inspiration. Our company had no office. So I was very intentional when I built my company. I didn't want anybody to come to a central location. We all had unlimited vacation. And I so deeply believed in rest. And so that was kind of like one of our tenets of building the company. When we had a tiny team of 4, so when I sold, we had a team of 7. When we had a team of 4, Fast Company named us as one of the most innovative companies in the world. And it was one of the honors that I actually found out about on Twitter. And it was based on like some kind of like algorithm situation that I didn't know about, but I thought that was pretty cool. As the ladies mentioned earlier, I was also awarded the Forbes 30 Under 30 and named by Oprah as one of the Super Soul 100, so a collection of leaders, teachers, and thinkers elevating humanity. As you can imagine, I was like internally screaming inside when this picture was taken. My company was consistently featured in top tier press, Time Magazine, The Atlantic, Yahoo, Quartz, New York Times, you name it, we've been there. And at the time of sale, as they mentioned, we reached over 2 million travelers per month. We had about 700,000 followers across our social platforms, and we were doing multiple millions in revenue. So just a little bit about my company before I move forward. We craft small group experiences for discerning travelers. So you pick one of our destinations, you fly there, and we take care of you from start to finish. And there's a private photographer on each trip. And it's like awesome. And and we also had a subscription service for travelers who wanted to learn more about how to get paid to travel, how to move their family abroad, how to move abroad, all the travel things. All the travel things we did. So that was pretty cool. So that's a little bit about what my company did. So that's enough about me. That was a mouthful. My mouth is kind of dry now, but that is what I've done over the course of my career. And I want to get back to you. So I want to talk about building a business with the end in mind, right? Like I'm not talking about the exit strategy. I'm not talking about IPOing. I'm talking about starting a business and considering yourself, right? Considering your temperament, considering your personality, considering the kind of life that you want for yourself. You have people who are extreme introverts, like people who don't like to be around people, managing, 1,000-person company. It's miserable for that founder. It's miserable for that founding team. And so when you're starting your business and you're building your business and you're growing it, you have to think about the end game and not just the IPO or the exit, but who you are as a person. And I want to talk about the BRANDSTARTER formula. So this is a formula that I like to think about business and success. So at the base of this formula, you have dimension and intention. So this is all about the size of company. What size of company do you want to build? A lot of times people will build a company and they won't think about how big they want it to get until 5 years down the line, 5,000 employees later, they just hate everything about what they're doing, right? So dimension and intention is really important. The size of your team. How many days a week do you want to work? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? The next thing is the need and the customer. So what need are you solving? Who is your customer? What are their fears? What are their joys? What are their desires? Those are all things that are very important. Community and engagement. So this is key. How will your brand engage with the people that are buying your products? Through email communication, through a value sequence, we'll talk about that a little bit later, via user-generated content, through audio testing, or audience testing and iterating. And then there's product. So product, as you can see, is not at the bottom. It's not at the base of the pyramid. It's at the top. Because after you set your dimension and your intention, after you understand your customer, after you understand their needs, after you have a community and you're engaging with that community, then comes your product, right? Because you've started your product after you've done all of these things, you can see the gap in the market for you to serve, right? If you start with a product at the bottom, you don't get to see that. You're like doing paid advertising. You're like trying to get, your mom and your dad and your cousin to answer these questions about your product. However, if you are creating your product towards the top of this pyramid, you have a whole community to ask those questions, right? And then you have success. Success is that top little triangle up there. Now, there is a proven methodology to creating your customer avatar. Who here has heard of customer avatar? Show of hands. Oh, okay, all right, we're gonna have a lot of fun. Okay, so you have to go deep into understanding who your customer is in order to be an effective salesperson, in order to be an effective marketer, right? If your copy is generic, then people are just going to say, okay, I see the site, it's cool, but what's in it for me, right? Nobody cares about what you do until you can prove that it's solving a problem that they have. So target market talk is oftentimes really general, like small businesses or stay-at-home moms. There are segments, right? There are segments within each of those that you could be targeting. Same thing like with fitness, right? You could say, I have a business that's a fitness business, and we help people with their fitness goals. People want, there are people who want to lose weight. There are people who want to tone up. There are people who have just had a baby that want to get fit. There are people who, want gain. There's like so many segments of the fitness marketplace. You have to choose one, or choose whichever ones are specific to your particular customer. It's vital that you understand customer psychology in order to be successful. So the biggest mistake that people make is that they think that they already know everybody and they know every single thing that they want. And that's wrong. People will skip this exercise altogether and they'll wonder why they have mediocre sales year after year after year, because you're not connecting with the person that is going to be purchasing your product on a deeper level. So what is a customer avatar? A customer avatar is an individual with a name, a picture, and a specific demographic and other characteristics, right? So this is key phrases or quotes. So if I had a company and we were like doing home rentals, in Australia, to rent a property, they say to let. In the US, we say to rent. Right? So if you have a company that's targeting Australians and you're saying, do you want to rent your place, you may miss that market completely, because what is to rent? They use to let. Does that make sense? Okay. So you have experience and expertise. You have emotions, values, technology, social and cultural environments, demographic, age, sex, marital status, hair, eye color, you name it. We knew the kind of car our avatar drove. We knew if she had pets or not. We knew all of these different things. And keep in mind that an avatar is not a single real person, right? It's a composite of thousands and thousands of people. So every product that we had between, I would say, 1 to 3 or 4 different avatars, right? You're describing your target market. So again, it's not a real singular person, but you are describing somebody that you want to buy from you again and again and again and again. The reality is, when people would land on our website for our products, they would feel like we were in their heads. And that's what you want. When you talk to a customer, when you're selling a product, you want them to come to your website and be like, wow, like, what? These people don't even know me. And they're speaking directly to my fears. They're speaking directly to my hopes, my dreams, my desires, all of that. It's an emotional thing. When somebody transacts with you, it's an emotional decision. So if it's an emotional decision when they transact with you, you have to know who they are emotionally, psychologically. Okay? So I'm going to give you an example. This is a dive company. I'm going to read it off of my phone because my memory is not that great. So let's say that you're a dive company in Thailand, right? And you want to market diving tours to Western tourists, right? So you have a target market between 35 and 45 years old. And to create your customer avatar, you think about her life, her family, her interests, what her fears are. You step into her shoes. You see the world through her eyes and her emotions. So I'm just gonna read what she would think. Her name is Lisa, okay? I've had enough. I've been working 12-hour days, 6 days a week for the last 4 months. Work's been crazy stupid since the merger, but I feel exhausted. I need a break. I have leave up my sleeve, so there's really no excuse. I've had the idea of going to Thailand for a while now. Many of my friends have been there, and while I've done a lot of travel, Thailand is somewhere I haven't been yet. I haven't really done much of Asia, actually. I lived and worked in Europe for 8 years, so most of my travel has been there. I love to travel, but work has not allowed me to do so in the last couple of years. It's just been odd weekends away with friends. I have varied travel tastes. I enjoy my comforts and love to visit wineries and art galleries, but I also love to get my hands dirty and go camping. I can be pretty adventurous. I definitely want to visit some of the islands in Thailand and spend time relaxing on the beach. I don't want to spend all my time sunbathing though, so I do want to do something adventurous. Diving would be a great way to explore some of the islands. I'll be traveling on my own too, so it would be a great way to meet new people. It would be awesome to have a travel companion as opposed to traveling on my own, but I'm not too bothered. So for every avatar that we had a statement like that. And so what that did for us is we would have, if we were thinking about adding new features, or if we were thinking about doing all the things, we would go back to Lisa and say, is this something that Lisa would like? Would Lisa like if we, did X, Y, and Z? We'd go back and we'd read this and we'd say, no, like Lisa doesn't even like people, or like whatever the thing was. Why would we add this, like this thing? So it's important to have this avatar that you can reference, because when you're building out a product or when you're adding new features, you need to go back and say, you know what, Lisa wouldn't be feeling this, right? She's the first point of contact. Then you can do your surveys and all those things, but if you already know who your avatar is, you already know who your customer is on a psychological level, that can inform a lot of your decisions for how you build, grow, and scale your business. So in other words, knowing more, not less about a customer is going to get you quicker results. So when we launched Travel Noire Experience, I'm going to give you an example. When we launched Travel Noire Experiences, we got really deep into understanding our avatar, and we wanted to speak directly to them. So our trips were full package, probably between $4,000 to $5,000 each. And these are regular, consumers, and they're not entrepreneurs or anything like that. We sold out of our experiences when we launched in 90 minutes. And that was because we had an idea and a deep understanding of who our avatar was. We understood that, for instance, our trips, they hinged on the person being in a stage of transition, right? So they either just quit a job, they were like starting a new job, they got in a relationship, they're getting out of a relationship, they're trying to figure out their next move. That was who we marketed to. So it wasn't just people who love to travel, right? It's like somebody who is in a very critical period of their life and they need space and they need time to think, right? We took care of everything, right? From the time that you land to the time that you leave, we have everything taken care of for you. And that's what that's what our avatar needed. So we would consistently sell out of these experiences. This is in Bali. So it's a testament to how important knowing your customer is, and not just like, oh yeah, small business people or like whatever. It's about really digging deep and understanding who these people are, what keeps them up at night. We're gonna talk more about this a little bit later. So entrepreneurs get it wrong when they start with product first. Right? A lot of times when folks have pitched to VCs, and you have to have this vision, right? You have to have this vision for your product and vision for scale and all these different things, but do you have a vision for community, right? So people get it wrong when they start product first. And so I want to talk about the community value sequence. So the community value sequence is a market-ready strategy that quickly grows a clearly defined select group of individuals and turns them into raving fans. And it goes a little something like this. So you got value, conversion, value, relationship building, value, and the sale, right? The sale is at the end. It's not at the beginning. So when you think about the top brands that you know and that you love, you trust them. Why do you trust them? Is it because you bought something from them without knowing what they do or what they did? A lot of times they've offered some kind of value to you before they sold you or before they made the sale, right? So we didn't spend a dime on marketing until year 3 of my business. So to give you a little bit of context, I sold my company in year 4. So we went 3 years without doing any paid marketing whatsoever. Everything was organic, word of mouth, all that good stuff. And it had some really great yields, right? We were making millions of dollars and doing all these different things, and we didn't have to spend money on marketing. If we didn't start a community first, right? Like if we didn't get this right, if we built our product first, it would have been really expensive. We would have had to do surveys. We would have had to do all of these different things in order to really get feedback from our audience, right? We would have spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours trying to research and dig down and drill down and do all the things that entrepreneurs do to prove their concept, right? There's a huge misconception that in order to have a business, you have to start product first. And while you have to have a product to have a business, you should not start product first. You should focus on community first. So when I started my company, we focused on community first. We did master classes. We did all of the things, online events, all the things that were free. And, you know, we gave away tons of free value. We didn't make any money for the first 18 months. Now, it wasn't because we didn't want to, but I was so laser focused on making sure that we had a community to sell to. I was like, I don't want to sell anything. I don't want to sell anything, whatever. I'm going to focus on really giving a lot of value to our community, right? So when we did sell our first 2 products, mind you, 18 months, building a community, no products whatsoever. We sold our first 2 products in a year, and we made over $1 million, and our margins were over 50%. So that just goes to show you that there is a lot of value in building the community first, and having your community tell you the things that they don't like, the things that they do like, as opposed to kind of going the paid route, etc. Product adoption without community is expensive and it's difficult, right? So Aaron from Box once said, and I quote, and I'm going to read it because, again, my memory sucks. "You'll learn more in a day talking to customers than a week of brainstorming, a month of watching competitors, and a year of market research." You can do the same thing that they're doing, paying all this money to do all this market research, if you have a community, but for free. Like, you don't got to pay nothing. You can just go to your community folks and ask them whatever it is that you want to ask them, and they'll tell you what they want, right? So if you don't learn anything here from me today, don't build your business before you build your community. Don't build your product before you build your community. This is very, very, very important, right? So in a community, a happy customer can do wonders. When I'm happy about something that I bought, you better believe I'm talking to everybody. "Oh my God, did you get this thing?" I am running my mouth. I don't know about y'all, but I love being able to support other businesses and to tell people how a business has supported or transformed my life, right? So now that you have an idea about how you can kind of nurture an audience, I want to talk about your brand story and why that's all important. So this all kind of fits in this like neat little picture. But let's talk about the narrative syndrome that I think a lot of people experience. So narrative syndrome is what happens when you or your brand cannot tell a clear or compelling story at a level that the market understands. This is a problem. I have a million things going on in my head at all hours of the day, and to get what I do down to a soundbite is really, really difficult, right? Most businesses waste a lot of money on marketing and trying to tell their story in a way that's concise, in a way that's clear, and in a way that the market understands, right? So the narrative syndrome is also known as like confused marketing or lack of business clarity. Every story has to be clear. When you think about sitting in a movie theater and you're watching your favorite movie, you're not brainstorming. right? Like you're not thinking about like what you're gonna have for dinner. I mean, maybe it crosses your mind, but generally the way that our brain works is that we fixate on story and we run with that, right? We're trying to, did they win? Did they lose? Did they die? Did they, like whatever, you're focused on that story. So a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we talk about the bits and bobs of our business, right? Like all the processes and all the jibber jabber, like all the little things that nobody cares about. And we're at a level 7, right? Consumers purchase, they buy at a level 1, right? So we're all the way up here talking about all the great things that our tech does and blah, whatever. And the customer is like, but does it do this? At the baseline level. Right? And so when I heard that for the first time, I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. That's nuts. And I'll tell you a story after we go through this particular section, right? If a competitor has an inferior product, right? Like if their product sucks, but they have a simpler story, if they can tell their story better, they will win in the marketplace every time. It does not matter if your product is 1,000,000 times better. If they can tell whatever it is that they do in a soundbite, in a simple way, they'll always win, hands down. So it's not about who has the better product, it's about who tells the better story. Right, this is important, this is very important. Another thing I want y'all to write down. So in every story, there's this framework. There's this framework that exists that I want to talk about. Don Miller coined it, Don Miller of StoryBrand. He's genius, so y'all check him out if you can. You have a character. There's a 7 parts to a story. You have a character. This is somebody who's going to take the journey, right? This character is your customer, right? They are called to task. So if you think about any movie, you have a main character, they're called to do something, right? They are called to do something that's outside of their comfort zone, and they're like, I don't know if I could do it. So let's say that our character is Jenna. So that's the example I'm using. Jenna's the example I'm using. Every character has a problem, right? No story works if the character or the hero, both interchangeable, character and hero, none of this works if the hero does not encounter a problem, right? The problem posits it kind of posits something in our mind, like, will they make it out? Like, will they solve this problem? Will they do this thing? Will they get their happy ending, right? Jenna's problem is that she feels like she's living somebody else's life, right? She's thinking about quitting her job, but she doesn't know what's next. That's Jenna. Now, in a good story, there are 3 levels of problems. There are external problems, internal problems, and philosophical problems. So an example of an external problem would be, I'm like working so hard at my job, or I'm like working so hard in my business, and we're not making any money, right? Like I'm working all hours of the night and not making any money. That's the question that they're Googling, right? How do I like work less? How do I work from the beach? Whatever. That's the external problem. The internal problem is that I feel like a bad dad. I'm not there for my son's games. I feel like a bad husband because I'm not there for my wife. Whatever. Those are the things that people purchase on, right? So most people will sell you or most businesses will focus on the external problem, but where you win is if you focus on the internal problem. This is the problem that most people won't tell. They won't just like walk down the street and be like, I'm a bad dad. Like they won't do that, right? But that's how that is the thing that people will purchase on, the internal problem. And then the philosophical problem is like good versus evil. So an example of a philosophical problem would be if you're at Chick-fil-A and if you're at Chick-fil-A and the philosophical problem is fast food doesn't have to be unhealthy, right? It's kind of like a good versus evil, like, fast food is normally healthy, but it doesn't have to be. Like, I can get a salad from Chick-fil-A or like whatever, right? So that is what a philosophical problem is. It's kind of like a core premise or against conventional wisdom. Then you have a guide. You all are the guide. You're not the hero. Your customer is the hero. You are the guide. So characters cannot solve their own problem, right? Your customer can't solve their own problem. If they did, none of us would be in business because we wouldn't have anything to solve, right? So you are the guide because you have expertise. You've been where they are currently, right? And you're able to kind of usher them from where they are to where they want to be, right? So in any movie that you can think of, the character runs into something. They run into a person, they read a book, they remember something, and that is the guide, right? So for Jenna, my travel company is the guide. Next, you have a plan. So the plan. When a hero or the character meets the guide, they're confused, right? They're kind of like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I go back in my comfort zone? Should I step out of my comfort zone? And it's the guide's job to cut through the confusion. So y'all are cutting through the confusion that this character or this customer has, right? So our plan was that we wanted Jenna to just take the weight off your shoulders, just relax. Like, I know you've got a lot going on. We're going to, take you on this trip. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. Our plan was clear and it was concise, right? When somebody comes to your website, if you think about, what's the name of this car company? They sell used cars, CarMax. They have like a 12-point plan system, something. You go on their website and it's like, okay, you come to CarMax, you look at cars, you talk to our person, and then you buy. It's like 4 steps, like whatever. It's like X amount of steps. When somebody comes to your website, it should be clear to them how they need to engage with you. If they have no idea, like when they come on your site and it's like, not knocking the blogs or whatever, but if it's just like writing and they don't know how to buy something from you or how to engage with you further, then you are missing an opportunity. Like, you are missing the opportunity. So that's the plan. Then the plan inspires them to action, right? So this plan of yours should inspire them to either click, opt in, right? Like, enter your email address, or leave, right? Like, they won't do anything. It's oftentimes a dark night of the soul for the character, right? So when a character, and I'm like, I don't have any movie references in mind, but like, just think of your favorite movie and think of the guide in that movie, and then think of the plan. And that the character, when they're thinking about whether or not to take action or not, they're like, they're like really dreading, like, oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? If I do it, then it'll change my life. If I don't do it, then, whatever. Our CTA, our call to action, was booked down. Success. So a plan has to have a success factor and it has to have a failure factor. So this is important because people need to know whether or not, like, what happens if they succeed and what happens if they fail. Right? So a lot of people, they may hinge on the yeah, you'll have more time, more money, more freedom, blah, 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 but they won't talk about what happens if they wait, right? Because you're gonna have people that are gonna come to your site and they're not gonna buy, but they don't know what happens if they don't buy, right? You have to also talk about what happens if you wait, or what happens if you just don't do X, right? You could lose millions of dollars, you could do X, you could do Y, whatever. And then you have failure, like I talked about. But obviously don't hinge too much on the failure because you're trying to win people. Like, don't have the whole section talk about what will happen if they don't, join or whatever. Keep success as the main thing, right? So success for our avatar, Jenna, our character, was that she had clarity on her next steps. She knew coming back from the trip, she was like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna go here. Failure for her meant that she was gonna be stuck. She was gonna stay living somebody else's life. And that's not what she wanted, right? So a lot of businesses fail because they don't have that clarity. Customers have no idea what they do, right? They don't know what to buy. There's just a lot of mixed messaging and confusion. Remember that people will not buy what they don't understand, right? They won't do it. And you have to understand story in order to be successful in business. The human brain is drawn to clarity, and it's drawn away from confusion, right? Whoops, my bad. So once you begin to clarify your message, your business will grow. You'll be surprised, it will grow. So let's talk about Apple for a second. So Apple, in the 80s, Apple had this ad, and this ad was a full-page ad in the New York Times, and it had all the bits and bobs. I don't know if there are any tech people in here. I'm not that person, so I'm gonna say all the wrong things, but it was 200 megabytes and blah, blah, bits and bobs or whatever, and their sales tanked, deep end dive. It was terrible, it was bad. So then Steve Jobs comes back, he has his Pixar experience and blah, and he comes back, and their new messaging is 2 words. Anybody know what it? Anybody know what it is? Yeah, there you go. So it's think different. 2 words, right? So it went from this like long, extravagant, like, oh my gosh, like these are all the things that we do, to think different, right? We can transform your lifestyle. We're the guide, and we have this thing that's going to take you from X to Y, right? They were part of the transformation. And once you can be a part of a transformation for somebody, they won't go. Like if my computer breaks, I'm not gonna go to Dell. Like no offense, but I'm gonna go back to Apple and get another computer. Like so you gain loyalty. If you're a part of that transformation, people tend to stick around, 100%. And now we're gonna talk about Hillary and Donald. Okay. So can you tell me one campaign promise from Hillary? All right. Can you tell me one campaign promise from Donald?
He'll make America great again.
Make America great again. What else did he say he was going to do?
Build a wall.
Build a wall.
Build a wall. Okay. So, as you can see, it's not about who is the better candidate. It's about who tells the better story, honestly, right? It's like sound bites. Like Donald, he talks in sound bites, right? It's like anybody can remember what it is that he's saying. And so I use this example not to be political, but to drive the point home that it's like your competitor could have, whatever they have could just be terrible. But if they are able to simplify their message, then it doesn't matter. They win all the money. They win all the coins, right? So anyway, moving on. So here it is all laid out. You got character, problem, guide, plan, action, success, failure. This is the StoryBrand framework, also known as the SB7 framework. I loved it because it's done so much for my business. All right, so I'm going to give you all an option. So I have 2 other things that I'm supposed to be talking about during this talk, but I only have time for one of them. So I'm gonna get y'all to choose. So the first one is how we grew our social media to 700,000 followers. And then the second one is how to make competition irrelevant. Okay, all right, show of hands, social media. Okay, show of hands, make competition irrelevant. Ooh. Okay, all right, so get ready, because we're about to go move it real fast. Okay, making competition irrelevant. So how many people have heard about the blue ocean strategy? Raise your hands higher, I need to see this. Okay, all right, okay, so we're gonna learn some things today. So the only way to beat competition is to stop trying to beat competition, right? So I read the blue ocean strategy way earlier, and it blew my mind. I was like, what? That's dope. That's so cool. So I'm gonna talk about what it is. I'm gonna talk about a couple examples, and I'm gonna talk about what we did in our business. So in red oceans, you have here, these are where all the companies are, right? These are where all the companies are. They're eating each other. They're who's a really close competitor? Uber and Lyft, right? One of them does one thing and then the other one does the other thing, and it's just back and forth. They're just eating each other. And then you have this blue ocean here, and it's just this open space. The dolphins are it's so free, right? And so in competition, in the red ocean, you have high competition. In the blue ocean, you have low competition, right? The rules are waiting to be set. And so, what if your business could be in a league of its own? Instead of competing with other people in your industry, you kind of figure out a way to make it all work and kind of be in your own lane, your own little zone. So the creators of Blue Ocean Strategy, they didn't use this kind of benchmark for competition. They kind of created their own lane. They used a framework called the Strategy Canvas. And it looks like this. It's a little complicated looking, but we're going to break this down, and it is going to be awesome. So it's a visual representation of the current affairs of a known industry and how you kind of fall in there. So this is the industry value. So this is like all the main stuff. This is where everybody's like doing all these things. And here you are, the blue line, doing all the other things, right? And that is what differentiates you from the rest of the industry, right? So this is a one-page tool that if you all want to later on down the line, like I highly suggest that you do this. Not only for your business, you could do this per product. You could also do this, let me see, you could do this per product, and you could do this for your business as a whole. You could do this for your social media accounts. Like you could do all the things with the strategy canvas. So the blue ocean strategy kind of describes how businesses traditionally work. And the blue ocean is just all the space. They get all the fish and all the space. So this for me has been like our secret sauce. And I love it so much. It's like it's not an exercise that's super easy, but it's one that I really, really love. So to discover your blue ocean, you got to think about the 4 actions framework. So this is eliminate, raise, reduce, and create. Kind of like the reduce, reuse, recycle. Like, do you know that song? Like reduce, reuse. Okay, anyway. So kind of like that, but like a little different. And so you have eliminate. Which are the factors that the industry takes for granted should be eliminated? Reduce, which factors should be reduced well below the industry standard? Raise, which factors should be raised well above the industry standard? Create, which factors should be created that the industry has never offered? Again, there is no new business under the sun, right? Like if somebody comes to me and they're like, I have this crazy business idea, nobody's ever done it. It's probably not true, right? Like everything is like a stage of reinvention. So take a photo, enjoy. So this exercise forces companies to really scrutinize what the competitors are doing and what the industry is doing. And so we are going to talk about the Cirque du Soleil. Has anybody been to a Cirque du Soleil show? Okay, all right, just a little bit of you. Okay, so Cirque du Soleil. Here's what they eliminated. They eliminated animals, they eliminated concessions, star performers, and 3 separate rings, right? When you go to a Cirque du Soleil show, it's like the bomb. It's like all one big stage and like people are just dancing everywhere. What did they reduce? They reduced the thrill and danger and the fun and humor, kind of like the goofy, dun, 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 dun. They reduced that. And these are all things that were associated with the conventional circus. What did they raise? They raised the uniqueness of the venue by developing their own tents. So a lot of times when you go to a Cirque du Soleil show, it has a theme. They're all different looking. And then they created their own tents rather than performing in the confines of existing venues. And then create. They introduced dramatic themes, artistic music, dance, and more of an upscale, refined environment. So here is an image of a Cirque du Soleil show. Now, their competitors, traditionally speaking, were Barnum and Bailey, right? It was Ringling Brothers, but they didn't compete with them. They went after people who went to opera shows. They went after people who went to, like, they loved art. They went after people who would go to, like, concerto. Like, they went after the high, like, refined people, and they, like, flipped this on its head. So they were able to charge more, a higher price point, right? And not necessarily compete with Ringling Brothers or Barnum and Bailey. And as we know, the story goes, a lot of the circuses are kind of on the decline. Whereas Cirque du Soleil is just making all the money. I don't even know what they're doing now, but they're just making all the money. I see them everywhere, right? And so it pulled in a whole group of people who would normally probably not be caught dead going to a circus, you know, like, I'm going to an opera, but I'm not going to a circus, right? It pulled in those people, and that's what you have to think about. When you do this strategy canvas, if your competitors are all going for the same person, how can you go for somebody different that would still be interested in something similar to whatever it is that your competitor is going after? It takes a lot of like thinking and a lot of brain work, but it's possible. It's totally possible when you're thinking about gaining market share, for instance, right? So again, Cirque du Soleil. This is what it looks like. Cirque du Soleil is in the blue, and in the red is like the Ringling Brothers, and the dotted line is a smaller regional circus. So you have the price. So keep in mind, a lot of times when you're doing this differentiator, people are starting at the you want to start at the high price point, right? So like if the industry is like low, which is all the way down here, Cirque du Soleil came in, they were like, nah, we ain't messing with that. We going up to the top, right? And so they started here, and then you have star performers. They were like, nope, animal shows, nope, aisle concessions, nope, multiple show arenas, nope. And you can often see that there is a switch, right? So where the Ringling Brothers goes high, Cirque du Soleil went low. And when the Ringling Brothers went low, Cirque du Soleil went high. And then they created, this is the create part of the matrix, right? So they created a theme. They created refined viewing environment, multiple productions, artistic move and dance. So it's not just enough to be different here, right? Like you can be different here. It's not just enough. You also got to create some stuff, right? So that's the canvas of the Cirque du Soleil. Now let's talk about Southwest. So Southwest Airlines is poppin'. I think they're like one of the only profitable airlines, something like that. But they could have competed with United. They could have competed with American. They could have competed with Delta. But they were like, no, we're going to do something different, right? So they tapped into a market where people preferred driving than flying due to low costs, right? So if you look at their strategy canvas, you have Southwest here, and then you have car transportation, and then traditional airlines, right? So their people were actually car people, not flight people, right? So they didn't go and say, oh, United, we're gonna do lost leader stuff and like charge $2 for, they didn't do that. They went after people who were into cars, right? So as you can see, their Southwest line is closer to the people who like cars, right, than the people who are flying. So price is low, just like driving a car would be. Meals, I mean, you got meals on, there's not really an emphasis on meals when you're driving, but you have that here. Lounges, you don't have lounges. Seating class choices, front seat, back seat, driver seat, like you don't have options, right? Hub connectivity, no. Friendly service, speed, frequent point-to-point departure. And then Southwest came in with, they were like, we're gonna add meals. We may have lounges. I don't know if Southwest has lounges. You don't get no seating class choices. It's just like one herd, right? Hub connectivity is kind of low. But here's where we get a little bit different, right? We got all the friendly flight attendants, right? We have all the speed, super fast. We'll get you there super quickly. And then frequent point-to-point departures. So that's Southwest. And here is our strategy canvas. So this is for our small group experiences. So the price, this is the red line is the industry standard, and the blue line is us. So price, you had it relatively low, comparatively speaking to us. Photographers, group trips, we're not bringing photographers on. Itinerary rigor. So a lot of times when you see these group trips, people are like going for days. They're like, oh my God, and then I did this at 8, and then this at 9, and this at 10. We wanted to give you space and time to think. So the itinerary rigor, they had a high emphasis on that. Group size, you saw those buses of 50 people, right? We didn't want that. So we maxed it out at 14. Pre-trip preparation. So they didn't really do that with some of these group trips. They'd send you a confirmation email and then you show up at the destination, right? We wanted to emphasize that. We had a pre-departure call. We had like all the documents, all that good stuff. Activity quality, this was very touristy. We focused on like being in local grandma's homes, learning how to cook. Like that was the kind of style of trips that we had. Hotel quality was up there. And then group connection, we focused really heavily on making sure the group came as strangers and left like family. So that was how we did our strategy canvas. And you'll be really surprised when you do this exercise how much you can separate yourself from your competition. It's nuts. So don't disregard, we didn't talk about the Escalate formula. However, I want to take some time for questions. If you want the slide, you can text your email to that number right there. I will send you the slides And we have time for questions. Let's go with 2. All right, so let's go with 2 questions. Okay. Anybody? Oh, I advocated for 2 questions and nobody has any? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, how'd you get to 700,000 followers?
Oh my gosh. So we can talk afterwards. I can show you the slides.
Everybody's kind of interested.
Oh, everybody's in it. Okay. So it's actually the escalate formula. Let me go back. I'm gonna go back. Okay. So I'm gonna talk about this really quick because I don't have all the time. I mean, y'all can stay and hang out with me if you want to. But it's escalate. So the E is exclusive, right? So when you think about content that you want to give to your audience, it should be behind the scenes. This is Everlane. It's a basics company based out of SF. Instead of saying, oh, 20% off, sale, come through, they showed you everything that happened behind the scenes, right? This is like Valencia, open tomorrow, yada, 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 right? That's exclusive. They had some shoes that launched and they did like all these challenges in the Bay Area that was behind the scenes, right? People want to feel like they are a part of your brand, right? Same thing here. Lush Kitchen, behind the scenes. Who works for them? Here's this guy, talks about his story about how he got to work at Lush, all that good stuff. People eat this stuff up. They love it. Supreme. So this is like cream of the crop photos, like no more behind, no more in the dirty hallway type photos. Like these are like really crisp, beautiful photos that tell a story. You have Do You Travel, travel influencer, charity water, nonprofit, Starbucks. All of these images are like high quality, top notch, and it's very important that it's that way. Asiami Gold, another influencer. You have Away Travel, luggages, and Simone LeBlanc. They do gift packaging. Again, very beautiful looking, all that good stuff. Consistency. So this is all about, one, being consistent in the way that you post, right? We posted 12 times a day for 18 months. It was a lot. Who has time for that? Nobody. So what we learned later on was that posting once a day or once every few days was enough if we followed this formula. So it's about showing up for the people that are following you and being there when they have bad days, good days, all that good stuff with consistent content. Don't be posting no GIFs or memes. If you're not a GIF or meme, if you're not Giphy, don't post GIFs or memes, okay? I went to WeWork a couple of months ago, and I was surprised because everything was consistent. Typefaces, consistent. Headers, body font, images, everything was consistent. That was important. Cascade. So Cascade is about taking your Instagram followers from online to offline. So even though people's first entry point was Instagram for us, we made sure, we can't make money on Instagram. I mean, we could, but I wanted to get as many emails as I could so that I could build relationships with them, right? It's important to take that from online to offline. Lot. So this is all about batch creation. So when you're creating your content for your social media, it's important to think about your content as a grid if you're on Instagram, or think about it in themes if you're everywhere else. Don't just be waking up in the morning like, oh, snap, I forgot to post on social media. Let me just take a quick and then post. Don't do that. You should plan your stuff and make sure that it's consistent by lotting it. And then table is it's the thing that you do once that you've invited them to give you their email. Are you offering them a discount code? Are you inviting them to an event? Are you, having an Ask Me Anything with your founders? What is it that you're doing to continuously build relationships with these folks? And then engagement is all about engaging. So asking questions, making sure that people comment, all of the things. So this is a girl, she is a small business entrepreneur. She's talking about coffee, and this has 33,000 likes. I was like, excuse me, I don't drink coffee. You don't sell coffee. What's happening? But what she's doing is she's building trust, right? She's building a relationship. So what happens is that after this, whatever it is that she does sell, people are like, oh, yo, I tried that coffee, it was bomb, and now you're selling this thing, and I want it, right? So it's really weird the way that it works. This is Nike. I saw this shoe, and I was like, what are they doing? And I read the caption, and it said the inspiration for a running innovation that feels like this without actually looking like this. So when I think about this photo, I want to tag my friends, like, look at this, like, who would you wear these shoes? Blah, blah, blah. And it invites you to have a conversation. I mean, 500,000 likes, they have a lot of followers, but that's not the point. The point is that this drives conversation. Like, what is it that I have that people can talk about? Like, some dude named Harlow Price is like, this is dumb. Right? So somebody might come up, somebody might be like, this is not dumb, it's like so dumb. Like it just, inspires conversation. So that is essentially the formula. If you all text that number, I can send you more about it so that you guys can, huh? Have the number back on, please. Oh, okay, let me go to the end. Sorry, y'all, I so wish I could have got through all this stuff, but I had to give y'all a choice like Hunger Games, my bad. There it is. There's the number at the bottom. So if you want the slides and this worksheet, just text that number. I appreciate y'all being here with me. I hope y'all had fun.